let's talk about that moment. You know the one. You find it, the thing you've been searching for. You buy it, you bring it home, and it's absolutely perfect. But what happens when that perfect find turns out to be a perfect fake?
So let's meet Dave. Dave's a guy with a real passion. And for him, that passion is art. He just loves the history, the story, and the skill that goes into a beautiful piece. And one day, it happens. He finds the painting of his dreams. It looks like an original from a famous artist, and it just speaks to him, you know? It feels like this was meant to be. So he pulls the trigger. He invests a serious amount of money to make it his. We're talking $50,000. This isn't just some poster for the wall. This is a huge investment, the new crown jewel of his collection. And this right here is where our story takes a very, very sharp turn. Because that dream purchase, that incredible feeling, it's about to become an absolute legal nightmare. So how in the world did we end up here? Let's unpack the whole story between Dave and the seller, a woman named Esther. It really all began with what seemed like a simple, honest deal, which led to a truly shocking discovery. So picture this. Dave's at Esther's house, and he spots this painting he absolutely loves. He asks, "Is that an original Sidney Nolan?" And Esther, who genuinely believes it is, says, "Yep, it sure is." So Dave makes a fair offer, 50 grand, and she accepts. Seems perfect, right? A totally good faith deal. Both people walk away happy. But then the bubble bursts. Dave gets the painting checked out by an expert, and the truth comes crashing down. It is a fantastic forgery. I mean, so good it fooled them both, but it's also worth next to nothing. Poof. Dave's $50,000 investment has just vanished into thin air. And that brings us to the million-dollar question. Or, well, the $50,000 question. Dave is out a ton of money and he's stuck with a fake. So what can he actually do? What are his legal options to try and get that cash back? Let's walk through the 3 main paths he could take. Okay, his first option is to argue something called common mistake. The whole idea here is that the deal itself was fundamentally broken from the get-go because both he and Esther were completely wrong about the most important thing. And this seems like a slam dunk, right? It fits the facts perfectly. Both Dave and Esther shared the exact same critical misunderstanding. They both honestly, genuinely believed they were dealing with a real Sidney Nolan painting. Nobody was trying to pull a fast one here. But, and this is a huge but, here comes the legal twist. You'd think, okay, case closed, they were both wrong, tear up the contract. But the law, as you can see from this actual ruling, says, whoa, not so fast. The court's logic is kind of wild. They say there was no mistake about what was being sold. It was that specific painting hanging on the wall. They agreed on the physical thing. They were just mistaken about its qualities, like who the artist was. So what does that even mean? It means the contract doesn't just automatically vanish in a puff of smoke. It isn't void or invalid from the start. Instead, it becomes voidable. Think of it like this. The contract is still alive, but it's on life support, and you need a court to come in and pull the plug. It's a subtle difference, but legally, it's a massive one. All right, let's look at path number 2. This one isn't about a shared mistake. It's about a specific promise. The question is, did Esther's statement that the painting was a Nolan count as a core part of the deal, a promise that she then broke? See, in contract law, not all promises are created equal. Some are just minor details. But a promise that's absolutely essential to the whole deal, that's called a condition. And here, Esther saying the painting was authentic wasn't just casual conversation. It was the entire reason for that $50,000 price tag. It was a condition of the sale. And because that statement was false, she was in breach of that condition. Okay, on to our third and final legal strategy for Dave. Misrepresentation. Now, this angle isn't about a mistake or a broken promise exactly. It's about the fact that Dave was led to believe something false, even if Esther didn't mean to lie. This is what lawyers call innocent misrepresentation. The key word there is innocent. Esther genuinely thought the painting was real, so she wasn't committing fraud. But her statement was still false, and it was that false statement that got Dave to open his wallet. Her good intentions don't really matter. The fact is, Dave was misled. So here's how it plays out. The statement was false, but it was also material, which just means it was super important. It went right to the heart of the whole deal. Because of that, the law might give Dave the right to rescission. which is just a fancy legal word for hitting a giant undo button on the entire contract, making it as if it never even happened. So Dave's got 3 pretty solid legal arguments, right? It seems like he's in a good position to get his money back. Well, hold on. There is one more gigantic factor we have to talk about, and honestly, it changes everything. And that factor is time. When Dave found out about the forgery is just as important as the forgery itself. So let's imagine 2 totally different timelines. Scenario 1, Dave finds out the painting's a fake just 1 week after buying it. Scenario 2, he hangs it on his wall, loves it, and only discovers the awful truth 5 long years later. Does that time gap make a difference? Oh yeah, it makes all the difference in the world. And this table right here just lays it all out perfectly. Look at the column for 1 week. His options are fantastic. For common mistake, a court will probably set the contract aside. For breach of term, he can repudiate the deal, basically reject it and get his money back. And misrepresentation, that undo button, rescission, is totally on the table. But now, look what happens after 5 years. The courts basically say, sorry, you waited too long. For common mistake, the remedy is gone. For breach of term, he might only get damages, which is just the difference in value, not a full refund. And that right to hit the undo button for misrepresentation? Nope, gone. So let's wrap this all up. The verdict is pretty clear. If Dave acts fast, within a week, he has a really strong case to blow up the deal and get his full $50,000 back. But if he waits 5 years, the law says too much time has passed. He's effectively accepted the painting, flaws and all. His legal rights have just withered away. He's probably stuck with a worthless painting and, if he's lucky, a weak claim for maybe a little bit of money back, but definitely not the whole thing. So if you take only one thing away from Dave's very sad and expensive story, let it be this. In the world of contracts, your rights are not set in stone. The clock is always ticking, and waiting too long to act can literally be the difference between getting all your money back and being left with absolutely nothing. And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. As forgeries get more and more perfect, as they get harder to spot, what are you really buying? Are you paying for the physical object itself, or are you paying for the story, the belief in its authenticity? And what's that belief really worth when it turns out to be wrong?